Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, in our ongoing study in Rudolf Otto and the Idea of the Holy, published in 1923. We're going to take a look at chapters 6 and 7. We're going to take a look at pages 31 to 52, and we're going to look at the content of the numinous, one side of that content as the content of fascination. Let's begin by taking a look at block 1 and look at this element of fascination. And Otto tells us that the mysterion is the form of the Newman. Next, we examine the content of the Newman. Content already includes the fear and the majesty, which we previously discussed, but content also includes the fascinating. Content is abbreviated under two categories, the daunting and the fascinating. So under those two categories, in note 2, under the category of the daunting, we find fear or reverence and majesty. The daunting and the fascinating make up the numinous state of mind, and the fascinating is that which allures with potent charm. It creates the self's turn toward the holy. And the rational concepts used for this experience are love and mercy for that fascinating side. So under love, mercy, and grace, the rational concepts cannot fully grasp the meaning of the fascination content. We call it bliss, we call it beatitude. Grace is the best concept we can formulate for the experience of fascination. It leads to positive self-surrender to the Newman, and it becomes the Newman itself becomes an object of our yearning. And so under positive self-surrender, this worship experience results in both rational forms and sacramental observances, where we seek to possess the Newman. The forms of mediation fall into two classes, says Otto: devotional transactions and procedures of ecstasy. Newman begins to be sought for its own sake. It begins a process of maturity, where the numinous experience is purified into its purest state. So we look at the maturity in note 5 of this numinous state. We call that, within Christianity, life in the Spirit, where a beatitude is bestowed upon the person, expressed as our doctrine of salvation. But it really is beyond the concepts of intellect. We really can only employ metaphor and analogy in trying to describe it. So note 6, metaphor and analogy. Otto references the verse that says, "Eye hath not seen, nor ear heard the things which God has prepared." We can only give this experience negative expression. It is purely grasped in the feeling itself. This is where the element of fascination is found. And the natural man cannot understand this element of fascination because the natural man lacks the inward teaching and power of the Spirit. So under the concrete form of mediation, Otto tells us the numinous experience is felt in private devotion time or meditation and common worship. Although the numinous consciousness does become permeated with rational elements. But he says basically it leads to asouchazo in the Greek, meaning we cease being the active self, we cease into the calm of the divine. We cease into the calm of the divine. And it's our entry into the beatific real. It is the self's entrance into the beatific real. This mystical conversion experience is our entry into the beatific real, the beatitude of Christ's kingdom, the beatitude of the divine. And so that becomes a concrete reality. an experience that we define as real, but it is the beatific real. And so let's take a look at that in Block 2. What is this beatific real that Otto is talking about? And he begins with the overabounding numinous. And what he means by this is that in the Christian experience of second birth, this non-rational element is immediately noticeable. It means to be imbued with the overabounding nature of the Newman. Because God is a subject on his own account, God is subject in himself. Then he introduces the concept of the dainos, the Greek dainos, which means threatening, but it also, in classical literature, Otto tells us it really stands for an idea which is of a strange type or a strange variation. It's an idea that's very strange, really outside our normal experience. It's the self-confronting an idea that's threatening in the sense that we just don't, it's not familiar. And so he introduces in Block 2, Note 2, the dainos idea. Dainos is the numinous idea, the tremendous idea. It's potent and strange. It is a source of the energia. It's awakening of the numinous sense of awe. So we look at this numinous sense of awe and Block 2, Note 3. The dainos idea is the real idea. It's too vast for our faculty of space perception. It is the uncanny, the fearful, the daunting, but it does include a hint of that alluring fascination also. So it is the uncanny, the fearful, the daunting, the great, great power that is almost threatening to us, because it is living God. But it does include this hint of alluring fascination also. In other words, it has a dual character. So Block 2, Note 4, the dual character of the numinous state of mind is daunting mysterion and alluring fascination. Aesthetically, we could describe this as the feeling of the sublime, says Otto. And this abbreviates some rational signs. It's an experience that dauntingly humbles and it fascinatingly exalts us. We are extended beyond ourselves. What does it mean to be extended beyond ourselves in this experience? Well, Otto tells us that ideas attract one another. Similarity leads to an exchange of ideas. It's a process of transmutation. As our circumstances change, as the idea becomes dialectically involved with our circumstance. But as far as the idea of oughtness, it only evolves out of the spirit of humanity. But what we end up with is two new terms, and we have to understand these. If you look at the very bottom of Block 2 there, the asuchadzo calm, that cease into the calm, that ceasing into the state of the calm in face of the awesomeness of the divine, is coupled with that dainos idea, that idea that is threatening but inviting, where Moses kind of hid in the cleft of the rock as the visible deity passed by. So it is that awesomeness of the divine, but it is also alluring and fascinating and inviting. It's a dainos idea, and it comes to us in that state of mind which is the asuchadzo, that ceasing into the calm, that meditative moment, that meditative experience of being totally indwelt, surrounded by and indwelt by the living Spirit of the living God, by the Spirit of truth, by Christ's Spirit. So he gives us these two new terms, asuchadzo and dainos. And from there, he leads in block 3 to what he talks about as the schematizing, the forming of a schema in order to basically articulate this numinous experience. We form kind of a schema of ideas in order to articulate what we experience in this numinous state of mind. So if you look at block 3, we begin with the Greek concept of schematizo. The numinous is an unevolving feeling. It is sui generis, a category unto itself. It is, however, schematized as the feeling of the sublime. The process of schematization is the connecting of ideas through association. It's an idea sequence. It is an idea sequence consisting of rational concepts, and these rational concepts form the category of the holy. So we're looking at the work of the intellect here, but it's the work of the intellect forming a schema of ideas, a schema of eidos ideas, to shape into an articulation of that which cannot be verbally expressed. It's beyond us, but we do form a schema as best we can of eidos ideas to articulate this numinous state of mind. Now what about these rational concepts in 3.2? The sublime is an authentic schema of the holy. The numinous is an element of the human instincts, okay? It's the element of the human instincts. Remember, we just finished that study by W.E. Hawking, and he talked about the all-pervading human instincts. The numinous infuses the rational intellect with its instincts, and the rational is again infused from above, from the objective Newman, in the stage of infusion just prior to the realm of positing. Therefore, the realm of positing becomes a composite of two factors, says Otto, of the instincts and the rational. Those instincts that come from the numinous state of mind, and then the rational schema that is formed. That schema of ideas, eidos ideas. We end up with a composite product of instincts and reason. If you look at 3.3, linguistic expression is drawn from the fields of the mental life, which are words supplemented by tone and by gesture. Otto says music also becomes a form of expression for the numinous. Music schematizes the holy also. To be schematized is never simply the making of the holy into the morally good. It's not that kind of rationalization. We don't rationalize it into propositions about the morally good. That's not it. We form a schematizo, an epicorregio, a choreography of ideas, a schematizo, a schema of associating eidos ideas that articulate as best we can what we feel in the numinous state of mind experience, that numinous state of mind experience in the heart, in the soul, in the state of mind that influences the intellect and helps us to, through its empowering, to shape the eidos ideas of a schema of the holy. That is exactly what we do. We do not form a list of propositions about the morally good. That's not what we're involved in. We're not forming rationalizations. We are forming a schema. That's a different type of endeavor. It's an extension of the numinous state of mind. It's an actual self-actualizing extension of the numinous state of mind. So it gives us a lesson that actually surpasses anything we could have expected. I just think it's so powerful that in just 52 pages we have really a great outline of his personalism, a Christian personalism from a German theologian. We have personalism in America from Baum, Hawking, and Brightman, but in Otto we have a German theologian giving us a Christian personalism that is all about the content of fascination, the reality of the beatific real, and then the shaping of that beatific real into a schema of the holy, which is a self-actualizing moment extending from the numinous state of mind. Absolutely powerful teaching. Rudolf Otto is, of course, an extremely important historical figure in theology, and especially when we look at a kind of a counter theology to systematic theology, a theology that wants to affirm and lift up the numinous and not fall back into simply forming rationalizations. And so it is a powerful, believe it or not, this is only our second lesson. In 52 pages, we've got a tremendous amount of content. That's going to wrap up chapters 6 and 7. Pages 31 to 52 we'll pick up next time in chapter 8.